Bees are very important for the environment, and Einstein once said that if bees were to go extinct, then humanity would also go extinct 7 years later. They do such an important job of pollinating, the crops, of ensuring the survival of humanity. And I thought, what? This is kind of also like kids. Kids also are the future. They're also important to the environment. They're also important to our life, and they're the future that we raise and we take care of them. And they do have this big role in shaping our future, just like the bees.
Qadreya, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. I'm very excited to talk about baby food, which I never thought I would actually say in a sentence, but your entrepreneurial journey and everything that's happened over the past few years. So why don't you do a little intro yourself and tell our audience who you are and what do you do?
Great. Hi, I'm Qadreya. It's very nice to be here. Actually, my background is in finance, believe it or not. I've studied business my whole life. I come from a family of business entrepreneurs, and even my current job is also in the financial industry. But one day, I was babysitting my friend's son, and when I was feeding him, I really, really love that boy, so that's why he was special to me. So when I was feeding him, I was feeding him the supermarket, the supermarket packets,
Okay.
And it was the only thing available at the time. And I noticed that it had no color, no flavor, nothing. And when I turned it back to see, the ingredients and the dates, I noticed that the production date was older than the baby himself.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy, right? I mean, it was produced 8 months ago and the baby was just now turning 5. And that's when I realized that there was a gap in the market for healthy food and fresh food for babies and for kids. And when I identified that gap in the market, I started to ask more and more of my friends about it. And that's when I realized that there might be a chance to do something there. And I started by cooking for my friends' kids, actually. I started by giving them samples, and they really liked it, and they gave me good feedback. And soon after that, I just decided to turn it into a business.
So there's no one more honest, I think, than a child, whether they like your food or not. So
You were so brutal in the beginning.
It's maybe such a good thing, though.
My range is from 6 months to 4 years. So at the 6 months, they don't say anything. They would just just do that with their face.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So those were fine. But the older one, the one who can talk, that was the really bad ones. Because when I used to give them the food, our food is traditionally rich with, salt and butter. Because, we have the biryanis and the curries. So when I fed them this, it was clean. It had nothing, no salt, no sugar. They said, "What is this? This has no flavor." And they were so rude in the beginning. They were like, "No, what is this? This is dry. This is..." And I used to test it out and test and keep testing. Like, I remember one of the dishes we have is meatballs and sauce. And we did about 12 different iterations before we got to this final one. And it was all because of their feedback.
Wow.
And yeah, it was all because of their feedback. And luckily, this is our most selling one now.
Is it? Just goes to show. So the business is called Bumblebee.
Yes.
Is that right? So what made you come up with that name?
Bees are very important for the environment, and Einstein once said that if bees were to go extinct, then humanity would also go extinct 7 years later. They do such an important job of pollinating, the crops, of ensuring the survival of humanity. And I thought, what? This is kind of also like kids. Kids also are the future. They're also important to the environment. They're also important to our life, and they're the future that, we raise and we take care of them. And they do have this big role in shaping our future, just like the bees. So that's where the name came from.
So talk me through the journey of that. You were with your friend's son. How long from the day that you realized to actually, starting the business? What was the process like there?
It was about a few months in the beginning, because I was testing out the recipes and I was giving out to my friends. I was having success. And then when I started to take it seriously, I had to get the permits for, opening a business, because opening a business here in F&B is also different than when you want to open a kids business. That comes with its whole set of permits.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Exactly, because
and especially food and for kids.
Here, the government, they're very strict. They really, really care about the standards. They have very high standards, one of the highest actually in the world. So it's really, really good for the consumer, because you can almost guarantee, your food safety. But, for the supplier and the business, we do have a lot to follow, which I, appreciate and I understand, especially because, it's kids and you want to ensure the safety of the food. So that took us a really long time, to be honest, a few months. And then when we wanted to launch, COVID hit. And I was really busy in my day job. That took a lot of my time, especially the first few months. It was unprecedented. Nothing happened like that before. So our launch had to be pushed back by like a year almost. But in hindsight, that was good because it really allowed us to even develop the recipes more, to understand what the customers wanted. And if anything, I think that it saved us more, rent, more space, more everything, because instead of just going to a mall, for example, now we're just based, online. We just have online orders.
And was that never the plan to be?
That wasn't the plan. We wanted to rent out a space.
Oh,
but,
wow.
Yeah, but because of the lockdowns, we didn't go ahead and sign for it. So that was really perfect, after that. At the time, it was like, no, we want to launch, I was really sad about it. But in hindsight, like, look at how great it turned out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how many is it meals or recipes do you have out at the moment?
So what we have is actually baby food, but it's frozen. So it's freshly made and it's ready made, but we just freeze it. We have about 15 different recipes because we cater from 6 months to 4 years. Mm-hmm. So the recipes change every couple of months.
Okay.
To ensure, different varieties. And we have food for all kinds of, restrictive diets, for example, for all kinds of allergies. For example, we have things without any nuts. We have things without gluten. Yeah. We do without dairy, without eggs. We do things that are vegan. We try to cater as much as possible to different kids and different needs. And, parents can always get in contact directly with us and we can see what we can do, to find a tailored meal for their child's needs.
So what was it like? Are you still working full time, or so you've been balancing full-time employment and running a business.
Exactly.
So tell me some of the things, the challenges, and some of the benefits that you've had with that.
I think one of the greatest challenges is just finding the time, right? Because in the morning I do my day job, and then at night I do the Bumblebee business. I put all my time and my effort for that, and it also goes on the weekends, because on the weekends I'd have more time to work on my business. But what that means is not having time for myself, not having time for my friends, so it'd go weeks before I could see any of my friends. And if you know me, you know that I see my friends, I have to see them every week. I have to see my family, every week. It's tradition here.
So that's been a big adjustment.
So now I see them maybe once a month, once every couple of months even. So it has been a big adjustment, but they're very, very supportive. And sometimes they would even come out, to my house, even if just for a quick hello.
Yeah.
So that's been really, nice.
So you do your day job, and then what are you, 5, 6, 7 hours in the evening? Yeah. And then you've been doing that for the past year, 2 years? Well,
almost 3 years.
Yeah, we're coming up for 3 years.
Almost 3 years now.
So that's tough. When would that change? Or, is that something that you want to change? Because it's not sustainable.
I wouldn't say it is, but for now, I think it's okay. I think I have a little bit more drive to continue this for the next year, but maybe not more than that.
Okay. So tell me some of the myths in, the space that you're in. I mean, you have started a business that's for kids, but you don't have your own kids. So in itself, that must have been a massively steep learning curve. What are some industry myths that you want to share?
Anyone who says that it's easy, it's not.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to child nutrition, at least in my family and how I grew up. As soon as you get teeth, you can just eat anything, right? So, for example, the normal food that we eat, like the biryanis and the curries and whatnot. So what parents would do is they would mash it up with a fork and they would just give it to the baby, as long as it's the same food that we eat. And, we turned out fine. Yeah. So you wouldn't think that there is any long-term effects on it. But the thing is when I started to, read about it and educate myself about, childhood nutrition, I realized that those are actually really bad habits that contribute to childhood obesity. For example, the salt. The earlier you introduce salt to a child's diet, the direct correlation it is to early childhood obesity. Because kids, they can't really filter out the salt in their body, and it has water retention, so it even makes them bigger than than what they are. So this is one of the things, that I've learned. I really wanted to ensure the safety of the meals, and I wanted to ensure the proper nutrition in every meal. So that's when I decided to work with a pediatric nutritionist. We were working with Yasmin Al-Haddad. She's also one of the best here, the best, I think, in Dubai. And, she also helps us to ensure that every meal that we do has the maximum nutrition, the macronutrients that a baby needs in his daily life.
Okay. So is there any other sort of myths? Because I think even that in itself, you not being a mum bringing up children right now means you can still do a business that's children related.
Yeah.
I think that in itself is a myth. Anything else?
I think one of the other things that I've learned is just that you can't do more than one thing at a time.
Ooh, let's talk about that a little bit more.
Everyone says, for example, if you do one thing, then you can't do the other, and it's not about like sexism or anything like that, but it's just about, for example, if you are a stay-at-home mom, then you can't do this, or if you're working, then you can't do this. And it goes, both gender, it goes, for everyone. It's like if you do one thing, then you just can't give your best to the other thing. And I think that that's a big myth, meant to drag us all down. People can be excellent in so many things that they do at the same time, right? We have so many amazing people in this world. Like they're, for example, perfect athletes and, professionals, but at the same time, they're married, they have kids, they have time for it, and they do for example, their business, right? They also have their own business, and no one tells them they can't do anything, Yes. So I think this is one of the biggest myths, was that you can't do it, that, it will all just come falling down on you. But lucky me, I've been, I've had a great support system, so I have to credit that. I've have 2 jobs now, and I am balancing it, I think.
Good. When it comes to marketing the business, so you tested it with your friends, and it's great, and that's a fabulous way to start. But how do you get people to start buying your products? What have been great marketing strategies that have worked for you in the past 3 years?
The best marketing is word of mouth.
Yeah.
To be honest, especially when it comes from moms.
I was going to say, babies,
exactly.
no chance.
Exactly. Babies, they don't care what they eat,
exactly.
But moms, especially new moms, for me, to be honest, that's very important. Their feedback to me. I always check, on my customers, when they place an order, like, how was your order? How would you like us to improve? Is there anything you have? So that feedback, helped us, and that also translated to word of mouth for other moms. Almost all of our core customers in the beginning, they came to us from recommendations. When I wanted to grow it even more, that's when I started to market from social media. I didn't do paid ads in the beginning. Yes. It was just, just posting, using the hashtags, following, as much as I can. I discovered there was something called paid ads. I didn't know about that. So when I discovered that, I was like, okay, let's try that out. So that even helped to get us even more visibility, until we reached, partnerships, and we started to collaborate more with schools, with nurseries, with events, with those little messy plays, the toddler plays, the toddler areas. We started to participate in those events, and that's how we got our visibility.
Collaboration. So the paid ads gets the visibility, into that then leads to the collaborations. What has been one collaboration that you've particularly enjoyed, or has been, really beneficial for both parties?
There was one school, one nursery I went to, and it was really, really nice because I got to meet all the babies there, and they were aged, I think, 8 months, because they were just carrying the little baby. It was really cute, and the mothers were there. It was, I think, also 3 years. The kids were there in the nursery, up to 3 years. And they were all tasting my food. I was just showing them and explaining to them, this is this, this is that, and I worked so hard on the menu because they didn't give us a list of allergies or anything, right? So we worked really, really hard to ensure that nothing had any nuts, nothing had any dairy, like the most allergens, avoid everything. And we did that, and all the babies were eating and coming back for seconds and thirds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we had like those mini pancakes, and they were really, really popular. So to me, just to see that, the kids coming and eating, and the parents asking about it and just being interested, in my opinion, the most successful event I've been.
Yeah. So have you always been into cooking and, creating menus and dinners, and is that your thing, or is this also quite a new?
Yeah. So I've definitely always liked cooking.
Yeah.
Since I was a kid.
Okay.
But I was really afraid of the fire. Really afraid. And at the time, the electric ones weren't as readily available, the more of the fire ones. So I was always afraid to work it. So I'd wait for my mom to work it for me, and of course, because it's fire, so we need supervision and everything. Until one day my dad got me the electric one, and that was really, really fun. And that's when I started to experiment a bit more and take more risks, develop more recipes. And then by the time my little sister came along, she was interested in what I was doing and wanted to eat my food. So I was very motivated to cook for her, to try for her new things and new recipes. A few years back, I also went to a culinary school because I wanted to take it a bit more seriously, to develop it. But the kid thing was just pure luck. You know what happened?
Well, I say it's pure luck, but if it's something that you were doing with your sister, the seed was already planted.
Yeah.
If you were already doing it there. And they often say that when you look back is when you can join the dots. Yeah. So if you were looking back and you're going, well, actually, no, I really wanted to make beautiful dishes for my sister. I think you said there's 14 years between you and your sister.
Yeah.
So to make dishes for her, then I'm not surprised that, 10 years later, you're going in and you're making a super successful business of it.
Yeah.
What's kind of next for the brand, or what happens? You've got these 15 recipes, you update them regularly. Is it all savory? Is it sweet?
We have a mix of savory and sweet.
Yeah.
So, for example, we have things for breakfast like oatmeals. We have for lunch curries, for example. For dinner, we have like spaghettis, pastas, and we have also snacks, which are fruit-based. Most of our snacks are fruit-based because all of our food is savory. So we try for the fruit to be sweet. Yeah. And of course, there's no added sugar and no salt in it. But the next steps, I think, would be to start targeting supermarkets. Mm-hmm. We do want to expand our supply because right now we only sell through our websites.
Okay.
And we want to expand, because we do have parents asking us like, hey, where can I find your product? They want easier access because for now what we do is we only sell them online and we deliver 2 days after your order. Because, we cook the food fresh to order, but then we freeze it. So that takes time. Parents now come to us and want something a bit more faster. So if it's at the supermarket, we can do that. So, hopefully that's one of the medium-term plans for us.
What would you say to someone who is considering starting a business or, in the position that you were? What advice have you got for someone who's listening?
I think the best advice I personally got when I started was to study the market, to do your own research, to read as much as you can online, to ask people here in the industry, to make network connections. And the reason for that is to just understand, who the competitors are, who the players are, what's the expected budget, how are you going to manage your budget, when are you going to break even, all of those things, you need to do before you enter any market, whatever it is. And that strategy has allowed me at least, to manage our finances properly, to understand, the market, the industry. And we entered a very niche market, so there wasn't much information available.
Yes.
So everything that we had to go from our own research. We had to go to moms, we had to go to schools and ask them our own set of questions to build.
So you actually did that? You had a study, and how many people did you go out to?
Total, we got about 500 responses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Because the mothers I know were about 100, and then they led me to another 200. And then from social media, I also, did the surveys, the online surveys through all of their friends. And I got about 100 responses then. And then to schools, through, my sister's school and my other cousin's school, I went to them, I asked, their teachers, just a simple question like, what are the meals that you serve? What are the meals that you see parents serving for their kids? And what do you think, what do you think of that? And how do you see long-term effects? Do you see behavioral differences when kids eat with other kids? One thing I learned is that the kids, they will all eat the same meal if they're all eating it together. So if they're all eating, even if it's not good, but as long as everyone on the table is eating the same thing, they will all be motivated to finish it. So this was also one interesting thing, one interesting data point that, we gathered. So just, do your own research and put all of that knowledge into your own, into when it comes to developing your business strategy.
I've got a couple of questions that we just keep it nice and easy and open. So this is a Christmas set that I got. 𝗕𝗿𝗏 has a game where you can ask questions. Pick one and let's see what we get. It's totally random, but I kind of like the conversation and the stories that come from it as well, because it might help us find out something else about you. So go for it.
Sure. Okay. Take this one. I make too big of a deal about.
Ooh, I make too big a deal about. Well, tell me what you would say, and then maybe what your family might say, or would it be the same?
I didn't think it was the same, but lately I'm starting to believe them.
Okay, what do you make too big a deal out of?
Everything.
Oh, give me one example.
I like things done in a certain way. And if I don't get it, then I do make a big deal, like, hey, why didn't you do this? I told you to do this, you know? Like, I always plan, like, plan A, plan B, plan C, all the way up to plan Z, you know, just in case. I know everyone says, why? You know, just relax, do it. And then I get even more upset, like, don't tell me to relax. You know, and then they're, why are you making a big deal? So I'm like, I'm not making a big, you know? So this is one of the things.
What's one thing recently that you've made a big deal out of?
If I want to connect it to the business, it was 𝗕𝗿𝗵, but I made such a big deal. I was telling all of my friends about it. I went to the labels, then I went to the company, and we had talks for days and everything. And the reason was the labels had square edges instead of round edges.
But that's an attention to detail, and it's a small, but it bothered you.
It bothered me. No one else noticed. Like, no one noticed. And I'm showing them the two labels. I'm like, look at them. And no one saw the difference. They're like, it looks the same. But to me, it was such a big deal. So they were like, calm down. You know, you make a big deal about everything. So that's when I realized, you know, might as well let go of the small things and just focus a little bit, you know, because if you sweat the small stuff.
Yes, I was just thinking of that book, by the way. Have you read it?
Yeah, I did.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah,
it's not quite working yet.
Yeah, exactly. I tried to, you know, to read it, but it didn't really resonate. But now when I started to I think the first time I realized it was, you know, when you're stressed and then suddenly you're relaxed, you get like this, the tension goes away, the headache goes away. And that's when I realized, oh, wait, the frown just went away. Was I frowning this whole time? You know? So that's when I realized, okay, I'm stressing too much over the little stuff. And if you are to sweat about the small stuff, then you'll never, you know, you'll just have white hair.
Yeah. Well, and the fact if you're running, you know, a business, how many is in your team, by the way?
Just about 5, because we work with a lot of consultants. Yeah. So the permanent staff is just about 5. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you're balancing work and a full-time job and the business, you have to try to not sweat the small stuff.
Exactly. Ironically, I think I sweat the small stuff more than the
more.
Exactly. Exactly.
Why don't you pick another one? And let's see what else we can learn about you.
Sure. I'll take this one. Oh, okay. I wish I could spend more money on.
Ooh, that's an interesting.
More like I wish I had more money. On vacation.
Yeah, where would you go?
I would love to go to Hawaii, actually.
Has that been on your list?
Oh, since forever.
Really?
Since forever. You know, when I was a kid, I watched Lilo and Stitch.
Okay, yeah.
And, you know, I've always been like, oh my God, look, they have so many nice things, you know, the nature, you know, the trees and the water. And I was like, oh, I want to go there. So I told my dad, like, Dad, look, you know, look, the ocean is next to them, everything, it's there. And it's like, oh, you want to see water? I was like, look, the beaches, everything looks so great. Because it was a cartoon, you know, everything was so green and nice. Yeah. So I told him, Dad, look, and they have exotic animals there, right? I didn't understand. So then he took me to the beach and said, look, there, water, go enjoy.
So it's still on your list.
So yeah, it's still on my list. I wish one day, I think, I hope to go to Hawaii.
It was on my list for a long time. And I remember, so I used to work with Emirates, so we used to get cheap tickets to fly anywhere. And when I knew that I was resigning to start my business, I had one more staff ticket to take that was 10%. You basically paid something like 10% of the cost of the ticket. So I remember thinking, where is the one place that's really far away that I'll probably never get to visit again? And I kind of looked at the map and I was like, Hawaii. I really want to go to Hawaii. And I remember going there and I went myself. I think I had, what was it, maybe 6-7 days there.
Nice.
And yeah.
How was it?
Amazing. Yeah, it did all nice. the you know, went and looked at all the surfing spots and hiked and beach, and it was really
I'm
good.
actually not a very good swimmer, but I still want to go. I was like, it's okay, I'll take, the tubes, and I'll take like the life vest. Just take me to Hawaii.
I love it. It's on the list. Right, one more and then we'll call it a day, and then you can tell me how people can find you. I like this one. I want to introduce this to every podcast now.
Okay. Oh, I wish I could still get away with.
What would that be? I'm trying to think, what would that be? Okay, I've got one as well.
I think I wish I could still get away with saying I don't know. Because, now that I'm older and, look like an adult, people expect that you know things. Sometimes, like, for example, you don't want to do things or are not bothered. So you just say, I don't know. But now you can't do it, right? Because they would say...
You think there's expectations.
Exactly. So that expectations, you wish you could say like, oh, I don't know, please help me, or please you do it instead. So there's this certain expectations now. With that comes, with adulthood. But even now in my position, at least, I can't really get away with it anymore.
Interesting. Yeah. Mine would be, if I could get away with it, would be less sleep. I feel like I need much more sleep now. So I go to bed at 9 o'clock, 9:30.
Wow.
So if I could get away with it, it would be nice that I could do a little bit later and still get up at 5 a.m. in the morning, but it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. How can people find out about you and your fabulous children's?
So we can check our Instagram, Bumblebee AE, or you can check the website, bumblebeefood.com. And, if you send an email, or if you just send through the message, it goes directly to me, because I really want to ensure that I am personally there to address, any concerns or anything you have. Yeah.
What's your favorite food that you've created?
I think...
Is it the meatballs? Is it the meatballs?
That took the longest iterations to get to. It took us like 12 13 ones. 13th was the perfect one. And there are so many things that you can do with it. We've had parents put it in sandwiches, because their kids were, surprisingly, they really like Joey from Friends. And he always eats a meatball sandwich. So what they did was heat it up and put it in a sandwich with some cheese on it. And that was exactly
interesting,
right? It was so creative. It was so creative what they could do with it. And then we've had another parent who got influenced. She went to South Africa, and she was influenced by taking a bread, taking the stuffing out, and putting the meatballs inside. This was a dish. It's called, I think, bunny chow in South Africa. And it was like, oh, wow. The parents were so creative with what they used to do, with their food. So that's why it's my favorite one.
The meatballs.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the Kelly podcast. It's been great to hear your story and your success, and I wish you every success for the future.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.